The witching hour, or the devil's hour, is a time of night that is associated with supernatural occurrences. It is a time when witches, demons and ghosts, are thought to appear and be at their most powerful, because the veil between the worlds is thinner. In the Western Christian tradition, the hour between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, was considered a period of peak supernatural activities. This time is also referred to as the devil's hour, due to it being a mocking inversion of the time in which Jesus supposedly died, which was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The time varies. Some consider the witching hour immediately after midnight. During the witching hour, the body is going through rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. The heart rate is slower, the body temperature is reduced, the breathing pattern and blood pressure are irregular. Also, during REM sleep, which usually occurs within the witching hour, unpleasant and frightful sleep disturbances can be experienced. These include nightmares, rapid eye movement sleep behavior disorder, night terrors, sleepwalking, homicidal sleepwalking, and sleep paralysis. It is 3 o'clock in the morning. Lucille is sweating, catching her breath while seating on her bed. She was suddenly awoken by a scary, disturbing, and recurring nightmare. She's getting anxious and fearful, because she keeps having this bad dream every day. It has been happening for a week now. What's creepier is that it always happened at 3 o'clock in the morning. In her nightmare, she was walking inside a funeral home. She saw an open casket with a dead body. Lucille found no one, except empty chairs and flowers. She slowly walked towards the casket, but she noticed that her breathing gets heavier and heavier, as she approaches it. Then, she was shocked to see the dead person lying inside. It was her. She was looking at her lifeless body. She trembled in fear and almost lost her balance. She was still in a state of shock when suddenly, her dead body opened its eyes, and began strangling her. Lucille struggled. When she was about to black out and lose consciousness, she immediately woke up from her dreaded nightmare, holding her neck, gasping for air. Every time this happens, she just sits on her bed, worried, fearful and paranoid, until the sun rises. What's also bothering her is that every time she wakes up, her bedroom door is always open, even though she always locks it before going to sleep. Lucille lives alone in her apartment, and there's no way that someone will open it from the outside, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning. She decided to record a video of her while sleeping. She was reluctant at first, but she has to find out what's happening, because it might be related to her nightmare. That night, she placed a video camera on a tripod beside her bed, facing the door. She's hoping that the camera will not catch anything horrendous or terrifying, because if it did, she might lose her mind. She laid on the bed and tucked herself in, fearful of what she might discover. Then slowly, she closed her weary eyes, and went into deep slumber after a few moments. Just like the other nights, Lucille suddenly woke up at 3 in the morning from the same nightmare. She was clasping her heart while perspiring cold sweat. She grabbed her camera recorder. But to her surprise, the camera is on the floor, as if someone knocked it off. Her heart pounded faster. She immediately turned on the lampshade beside her bed, and reached for the camera, still lying on the floor. Lucille was in shock as she watches the footage. At 2:59 in the morning, the door slowly opened. She saw a woman, dressed in a white gown, entering the room. She was floating in mid-air, and stopped beside her bed, watching her sleep. Then, there was static. The next scene was even more frightening, because at exactly 3 o'clock, she saw the woman floating on top of her, strangling her. Lucille was horror-stricken. She looked closely at the woman, because she looks awfully familiar. She was shocked and began crying. It was her best friend. Even in death, her best friend still has not forgiven her. Lucille had an affair with her best friend's fiancé, but she ended their forbidden relationship because she felt guilty. She came clean and told everything to her best friend, asking for forgiveness. Her best friend was infuriated. She slapped Lucille and told her never to show her face again. Lucille left town, and moved into another city to start a new life. Then she found out from one of their friends, that her best friend died. On their wedding day, the groom did not show up, which left her best friend devastated. She was frantic and ran off to the streets, searching for her groom. But suddenly, out of nowhere, a speeding truck appeared and hit her hard, throwing her several feet on a concrete barrier, hitting her head. She was dead on the spot. After what happened, the groom still did not show up even in the funeral. Lucille cried heavily, as she felt the guilt of having betrayed her best friend once again. She just hopes that one day, she'll be able to forgive her. So both of them can have peace, when the clock hits 3 o'clock in the morning.